nirdayamanas tan tabyang nirdayamanas tan upalabhya kurudvaha upalabhya kurudvaha rājavaca mahan somo rājavaca mahan somo manyung prashamayan eva manyung prashamayan eva tabyang nirdadyamanang sthang upalabhya kurudvaha rājavaca mahan somo manyung prashamayan eva. Someone else. Tabyang nirdayamang sthang upalabhya kurudvaha rājavaca mahan somo manyung shamayang eva. Tabyang nirdayamanang sthan upalabhya kurudvaha rājavaca mahan somo manyung prashamayan eva. Upalabhya kurudvaha rājavaca mahan somo manyung prashayayang eva. Vaishnavis. Tabyang nirdayamanang sthan upalabhya kurudvaha rājavaca mahan somo manyung prashayang eva. Tabyang nirdayamanang sthan upalabhya kurudvaha rājavaca mahan somo manyung prashayang eva. Tabyam, by the wind and fire. Nirdayamanam, being burned. Tan, them, the trees. Upalabhya, seeing. Kurudvaha, O Maharaja Parīkṣit. Rājā, the king of the forest. Uvacha, said. Mahan, the great. Somaha, predominating deity of the moon. Somadeva. Manyum, the anger. Prashamayan, pacifying. Eva, like. Translation. My dear King Parīkṣit, burning, all the trees to ashes. He felt great sympathy because he is a maintainer of all herbs and trees. To appease the anger of the Pracetās, Soma spoke as follows. Répétez, s'il vous plaît. That means let's repeat it in French. My dear King Parīkṣit, when Soma, the king of the trees, and predominating deity of the moon, saw the fire and wind burning all the trees to ashes, he felt great sympathy because he is the maintainer of all herbs and trees. To appease the anger of the Pracetās, Soma spoke as follows. And purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Can we not show this? Can we not show this? I just want to charade it out. If that's okay. I'm going to act it out, and you guys got to figure out the words, if you don't mind. Okay. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. It is understood from this verse that the predominating deity of the moon is the maintainer of all the trees and plants throughout the universe. It is due to the moon. Yeah, shine. Yeah. That trees and plants grow very luxuriantly. Therefore, how can we accept the so-called scientists whose moon expeditions have informed us that there are no trees or vegetation on the moon? Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura says, Somo vṛkṣādhiṣṭhātā saeva vṛkṣāṇāṁ rājā. Soma, the predominating deity of the moon, is the king of all vegetation. How can we believe that the maintainer of vegetation has no vegetation on his own planet? That's it. Namo Srimad Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Paracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Hare Krishna. So we're looking at the continued story of the Pracetās who underwent austerities, tapasya, brahmacharajina, shemenacha, demenacha. It's a major component of those who are following the life of simplicity, is to take up some austerity, tapasya. And tapasya means to voluntarily take up some inconvenience for a higher purpose. Okay? Some people perform austerities for political purposes, going on long fasts and all kinds of different things they do, and for other reasons. But when you're doing something for the purpose of spiritual progress, then we can understand that this is favorable, and it's at least sattvic. It's executed in the mode of goodness. So that's what they did. And it was Malati was explaining a little bit. Not in your regular habitat. It's another world. And we were there before in another life. We were all fish. We were barracudas. We were, what do you call it, those piranhas that chew you everything up. You know? We were whales. We were dolphins. We were good guys and bad guys in the ocean. And it was another world. And if anyone happened to catch us while we were some kind of matsya and taken out into the air, we would go ballistic. We would go crazy. We couldn't handle it because it's not our natural habitat. You know, we would definitely be like a fish out of water, cannot function, cannot live for very long. And it's very interesting when I in my travels and my walks, just even recently in my walks through the United States, they have designated areas where you can fish and so on like that. But it's generally advised that when you fish, you can take it by the hook, but then you can throw it back in. You know, and this is some kind of sport. You know, I mean, it's unbelievable. So we were fish before We were air creatures before. We were birds before. We were in the ground creatures. And in recent walks across the U.S. too, there's a lot of jackrabbits in the desert and coyotes, you know, and badgers. They all have different sized holes. And I try to figure out, that's the hole over. He was making his way over into looking into one smaller hole, hoping the rabbit would come out of the hole. So land creatures in and above the surface and below the surface, we were all there. We went through 8,400,000 different species of life. So here the Pracetās are doing something that's kind of unique. They're human bodies, but they're spending a lot of time in the water. By the way, how many of you like to be in the water? How many of you like to go for a good swim? How many? Well, it's nice, isn't it? And that, one of the reasons would be because our bodies are primarily made of water. When we die, you know, a lot of what's us, you know, the flesh, will kind of just dissolve and, you know, go up into the air, and there will be not much left of us. Some skeleton, some little bit of hair, some nails, sticking out teeth, and that's what it's going to look like. And wouldn't it be nice if, say, we were to take birth, take another birth after shedding our body, and then go around and then find our skeleton there, what we were in before? That'd be a spook movie, wouldn't it? But we were all there before. We traveled before in all these different existences. And it is understood from the very advanced yogis that you can stay submerged in water and handle the water for a very long time. Like in the story of Dhruva, actually was able to control his life air, the movement of his air, and hold his breath. And he impacted the world so much that everyone around him suffocated. That's how powerful a yogi was. But like the story of the Pracetās, Dhruva is also an interesting story about anger. Dhruva had anger management issues because as a young child, we can say he was abused. You know, he was abused by his stepmother and his biological father. His stepmother said something that was not very nice. Oh, you're not privileged to play with your father. You have to die. You have to die and take birth again in my womb, and then you'll have the privilege. So those kind of harsh words. Is there a dance that goes along with that? That's India. So okay, so I almost forgot what I was. Dhruva, he had become angry as a result of his harsh treatment by his stepmother and his father, who didn't speak out on behalf of his son, who was just wanting to play, be playful and frivolous with his dad. And so he was angry with two adults whom are expected to give shelter, protection, and do proper parenting. So he was very disturbed, and he ran off, dashed off to his own biological mother, Suniti, and he lodged a complaint. And she, being a saintly woman, acted like the appropriate, acting in the role as a guru, that ask the person to come and sit down with us, and a lot more fun than playing that music. So it's profound what Suniti was saying. And that is that don't wish anything bad for other people, Don't wish ill of others, People are already having a hard time, So we don't need to compound the problem. Just like consider yourself, I'm already having a hard time as it is. Life in the temple can be okay, but my mind sometimes, and sometimes I'm hungry. It's Janmashtami, it's the 11th hour or the 23rd hour. And oh my God, I'm ready to faint. I'm almost having a blackout. And so we have our own little difficulties. So we should not wish difficulties upon others because, we just don't want to feel it ourselves. So there has to be this feeling for others and this feeling for other universes, other planets. Dhruva Maharaj was actually angry with the stepmother especially, And he just wanted vengeance. He was vengeful, you know. So his mother gave good advice. And he said, how can I deal with this anger? Well, usually you go to Vishnu. Where will I find him? Go to the forest. So sure enough, he took a one-way ticket, you could say, to the forest, to the jungle, and started his austerities. As yogis, as he has advised, yogis go to Vishnu, and they go to the forest, and that's how they deal and subdue, deal with their issues. Issues and tissues, they go well together, And so he was very angry. Now, Dhruva Maharaj went through his 6-month course, self-imposed course, and he had learned to control anger, and his heart softened. One thing about spending a lot of time in the forest as opposed to the city, when you're in the city, you get angry with the traffic and everything's square buildings. It looks, there's every good reason to be angry and to be hot, like a hot chili pepper from South America, And but when you spend time in the forest, out in the bush, there's a calming influence, And while there's also a lot of beauty to nature, there's the other side too, the flip side, the mosquitoes. One thing I really enjoyed about walking through the Nevada desert is that whether it was at dusk or dawn, when usually mosquitoes come out, in lush green areas, in the desert, they just don't come out. Yay to the desert. It was great. So, as Krishna explains, shall we jazz it out? Matrasparshasta konteya, shitoshna sukadukada, agama pahanondechas, tangstatiksha swabharata. Woo! So, that is a verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, that is expressing the dualities of the material world. It's good, it's bad. It's good, it's bad. It's good, it's bad. And it's maybe a little bit in between. Okay, it's mediocre, but usually it's good and usually it's bad. Sad asad yoni janmasu, the living entity, Purusha, comes in contact with Prakriti, the material energy. What happens? We meet with good and bad elements. That's stated by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So that's what you have. So Dhruva was more or less pacified, and he said, I was looking for a piece of glass. I found a jewel now. And he said, everything's cool now, mom, dad, 2 moms, 1 dad. Everything's just cool. I am chilled out right now. So years passed, and he had made his way up to become a great ruler, a great king. And then his brother, Uttam, went on a hunting excursion. And while there, he met with some mountain tribal folks. And one of them, a yaksha, I guess you call it, he actually killed not only the person who killed his brother, but he went after all the other community members, He came on like Lawrence of Arabia, like red and hot and full of blood. I want vengeance. I'm going to get everybody. I'm going to tear the world apart. Now, this might reflect a little bit when Ram was in exile, and Lakshman and Sita. Sita was taken away, and Lakshman and Ram were looking to see where she could be found, and they saw her footprints, and then they saw some other footprints, but bigger footprints, manly footprints, and then they saw she was picked up and gone, and this would imply something that, she's maybe been hurt, maybe been killed. And at that instance, Ram was extremely infuriated. His ire went way up, and he wanted to kill the universe and destroy it, He wanted to destroy the mountain peaks and just flatten them out. He just wanted anything. He just wanted to lay it out flat. And if Lakshman, his companion brother, wasn't there to appease him, well, I don't know what would happen. So we have a case of anger here. This is another anger story, another anger scenario, where the Pracetās woke up from their meditation. They saw everything's filled. There's no clearing. And, if you want to say, get a little bit into, let's say, there needs to be a clearing just so you can have a party. If you want to have a party, unless if you really want to be in the thick jungle. I don't know if anybody's ever traveled through the Amazon or those kind of real thick, heavy jungles where you can hardly penetrate. Everything's full of thorny bushes and everything like that. But you want some clearing space so you can build a temple. Maybe we can build your hut or something like that. And maybe even some veggies, some nice, broccoli or something like that, okay? So you have to clear the land. The sun will give access. And the moon also may be able to penetrate, as we understand. The moon and the herbs have this connection. So the Pracetās saw to it that they wanted some cleared land. And so they got it. But then it was Soma who saw this, and he was very angered that this was done without some kind of consultation. Usually whenever you do something, whenever you enact an execution, you actually, even in devotional circles, you ask for blessings, isn't it? Isn't it? Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is asking for blessings. Can I do this writing? Everybody asks for blessings from their superior. A warrior saying, I've got him by the throat. Can I lower the sword on him? What do you say? What do you say? And this is a little bit reminiscent of the first canto of the Bhagavatam where, several people were saying, do you remember the story in the first canto of the Bhagavatam? Anybody? No? Ashvatthama was grabbed. Who grabbed him? Arjuna, good. And he was ready to execute him, right? And then he looked at everybody. He looked at the people that are close to him, said, what do you say, Draupadi? What do you say, Krishna? He consulted. And it was actually, Krishna momentarily came in as Vishnu, manifest. Okay, wait, you've got your opinion? Just hold off. It reminds me of Gopal Bhatta Prabhu. Okay, Gopal Bhatta is in our meetings. Okay, hold on for a second. Okay, someone else with an opinion? Okay, wait, okay, great. Another opinion. And 4 arms came out, and Krishna was as manifest as Vishnu momentarily to say, okay, let's come to a final conclusion. So the conclusion, you can read about, that's your homework. Warriors will have anger, and it can be uncontrollable anger. One thing about Kshatriyas, they learn when to strike, how long to strike, and etc. And they wait for a blessing, That's the way it is. I threw that word around Kshatriya, warrior, once when I was walking in Ohio. And one officer came and he said, oh, I got a call that, maybe you're, because you're in Orange, you're a prisoner and you escaped from the prison. So I guess you're a monk, right? Okay, great. So I said, okay, well, that's fine. And we just started talking. We moved together up to where he was parked, to his automobile. And I said, like in our tradition, which has roots from India, the Brahmins, which I would represent, I give some advice, about give some clarity to what is good behavior, moral issues, moral conduct, And the Kshatriyas, like the warriors, like you're in that category, the warriors will then enforce this. Well, I don't know, I've never been called a warrior before, but it sounds pretty good. So the Kshatriyas were controlled by their superiors. There was always somebody up above you that would say yea or nay. So in the case of Dhruva, he went wild on the Yaksha tribe, and he did mass killing. Uncalled for. One person murdered his brother. Doesn't mean you just go after the whole village. So what happened there, many people came to try to pacify him, but he was in such a frenzy, nothing would work. Finally, his superiors came, like Manu. Swayambhu Manu came. Hey, stop. So a superior is like a guru, and someone who's there to tell you to put the brakes on. Put the brakes on now. And maybe you have to raise your voice a little bit, and because you're cultured. Because you're a cultured person, you accept superiors. That's one kind of definition of a culture, where you have varying relationships. In the modern day kind of cultures, hey man, even your dad, hey, how's it going, Pop? Word pop is very interesting. People commit all kinds of pop sin, I'm doing this walk through the U.S. I did a number of radio interviews. And this was in one place in Utah. And just before getting on, I met the person who's the moderator over, the broadcaster over the radio with the microphone and the machine and everything. It was a lady, and she was really great. I pulled out the Bhagavad Gita and says, I have that book. I have that book. Have you read it? No, I haven't, but now I will. Okay, she was very excited. So before we got on, I said, so ma'am, what kind of music do you play on this station? Because that's why you're here, Swami, so you can deal with our sins. Okay. So then we got on air. Okay, we're on, Swami. Put the headphones on. Go. Okay. So that was so-and-so playing the music that was on, and now we have a very special guest in our studio today. He's called the Walking Monk, also known as, can you say your name? Bhakti Marg. Okay, so I said it. And I said, and we had a little conversation beforehand, and he explained that we're playing kind of pop music. And that's why the Walking Monk is at the studio today to deal with our sins. So she was all kind of excited. That was kind of fun. In a so-called advanced society as we have it today, capitalistic, democratic, what else can I say? Secular to the max. You know, everybody's kind of equal, right? Everybody's equal. You know, it's all one Ras. You know, when we study in the Vedas, we see there's all the kind of beautiful hierarchical situation. It's a structure. It's a building, actually. And in a situation where you have no structure or no culture, let's say, everything's flat. It's basically flat, and that's kind of like where the world is. So in my meeting with people, motorists along the way, I kind of deal with them on that level as friends, you know, like that. They'll pull over and they'll say, okay, would you like a ride? No, I'm walking to San Francisco. You know, we're in Massachusetts. I'm walking to San Francisco. You're what? Yeah, I'm walking to San Francisco. It's going to take me 6 months. Well, would you like a ride? You know, or how many pairs of shoes will it take you? They'll ask simple things like that. And then I'll tell them it takes 4 pairs of shoes to walk across the U.S. or Canada. It takes that much because, you know, I'm experienced now. And they'll ask a lot of, you know, kind of questions. And if they have a little time, they'll dig a little deeper. And they'll just say, okay, like, what's it for? Why are you doing this? And I'll tell them, I'm walking to promote a walking culture, to get back to basics, back to Dharma. You remember Gandhi? He gave that quote, simple living, high thinking. That's a Gandhi quote, simple living and high thinking. And that's what I'm trying to promote, to get back to basics and get back to your spiritual side, to balance things, because we're just into slot machines and drive-through culture, you know, getting all your sense gratification, and nobody's really getting happy out of all of it, right? Nobody's really getting satisfied. So therefore, let's go back to a simple way of living. What do you say? I said, I'm with you. So it's like that. Now, anger is the topic, and anger is there. It's within all. How many people have anger issues? How many? Put your hands up. Anybody have anger? Malati doesn't have any anger, so I accept that. How many people don't have any anger issues? Put up your hands. Don't know anger issues? I'm going to throw a rock at you. Okay, perhaps it's true. There are some really high, very evolved people that don't have anger issues. But, you know, one thing that is for sure is there's justification behind anger. We talked about Ram being angry with Ravana. Hanuman was angry with him, and Prabhupada gives some other examples, right? If you see some vulnerable, subject, being abused, you have a right to be angry. You've got to be angry. You can't be passive. Oh, let it be. I'm just going home to eat my granola. That doesn't work. You just have to take action. You have to use that defensiveness that's in you, and or at least raise your voice, if not get physically inside there. It was really funny. I was at a gas station. This is in Canada in the summertime. I took a little break from the walk. I went to a wedding or something. And there were two guys there. And one guy spit on the other guy's car. I don't know why, but I came a little bit later on. And then the other guy took offense. And he was ready to slug him. And the other guy was ready to go like this. But really they were hot with their words first. 4-letter words, not R-A-M-A. Other colorful words, you know. And I was actually in the middle of cleaning the windshield, you know, the window of the car that I was being driven in. I don't drive, I just walk. Sometimes I take a ride in a car. But I was cleaning. And then I heard these guys, and I offered to cool down because I saw them sweating. And the one guy just took it and grabbed and wiped the spit off his car. So anyways, I tried to calm the guys, this is not the place, and it's just petty stuff. Forget it. It can happen to anybody. But they didn't listen. Okay, so anger is there, and we have some other examples of anger. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very angry when Nityananda got attacked by Jagai and Madai. Does anybody remember which one it was, Jagai and Madai? Well, I have to try to remember. It's the one that has mad in its name. Mad-eye, you know. And if you're trying to remember which one of the two nasty, notorious troublemakers, which one it was, so Mad-eye did it. And it was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, and he came with a fury, and he came with his chakra, and he was ready to release it. And of course, we know the rest of the story. Nityananda Prabhu was saying, no, this is not the place, it's not the time. Okay. So we have multiple examples of how anger can be justified, you know, and Kshatriyas can use it, and they can use it. I mean, turn the other cheek may have its place, you know. A Brahmin might turn, you know, somebody comes and insults a Brahmin, and, you know, turn the other cheek, you know, attitude. Okay, yeah, hit me. I think there was this one situation, I can't remember, one pop star. She was from Ireland, I believe. And she went up on the stage, and she took a picture of the Pope, the Pope at that time, and she tore it up into pieces and threw it out there. I'm not sure if the audience really liked it. So news got back to the Pope that she had done this on the stage. And I said, I'll give her many more pictures so she can tear up more pictures of my, you know, so that's kind of like the attitude, you know, of somebody who's like a Brahminical person. Now, when you get angry, you know, with someone, or someone gets under your skin, as the saying goes, you know, if you're a Brahmin, and as a Vaishnava, we try to bear the pain, you know. But if you're somebody from the outside, you don't want to dare see that this abuse goes on, especially for a Kshatriya. Don't mess with the warriors, right? So there is a place for it. There's a place and a time for it. And sure, there's examples where Prabhupada got angry because he expected better behavior from his students, his disciples, and so on like that. There's a place for it. But for the most part, we control that because anger is one of the ingredients that take us to where it's hot. You know? On the third walk that I did across Canada, myself and my support person, we had to get some repairs done on our vehicle, you know. And so the fellow was, you know, in charge. He owned the garage, the repair place. And he was looking at me and my support guy, and he said, so, and he was like a fundamentalist Christian. And he goes, so, I guess you guys are going to end up where it's hot because you're not a Christian. So that's what he said. Where it's, I mean, hell. I mean, I can get hot, like for me, I'm a North American, you know, from the north, actually, from the Great White North, Canada. And your weather here in India, holy moly. Sometimes it's... So it is definitely a depiction of hell. being in a very cold place, the other extreme can also be hell. A couple of comic things that I'd seen in the past. Somebody, there was this depiction of people in hell, and flames are everywhere, right? And then one of the devils with the horns comes out, and he's holding a pizza, you know, a pizza box with the pizza in it. And he looks at everybody. Whoever ordered this, it's going right back where it came from. You know, so you can't enjoy even a good pizza in hell. It's terrible. Another depiction of hell is where all these guys are, you know, victims in hell. They're queued up to go to the coffee dispenser. And there's, of course, devils, you know, like guards up their head, like standing like this. And one guy goes for the coffee, and he sips it. And then he looks at the guy behind him. In hell, they got everything covered. Even the coffee's cold. But really, hell, a true definition of hell, is a place where there's a separation from the absolute, a separation from Krishna, where there's a semblance that Krishna is not there. That's a way to describe Maya, after all. Maya means that which is not, or it means where there's a seeming absence of the truth. And the truth is Krishna. Krishna explains in the Gita, I'm the old highest truth. So that's hell. It really is hell. People can live in a real palatial building, have all the money at their disposal, so many rupees, it's coming out of their ears and their nose and all that, become very, very, very unhappy. Very unhappy people, you know, because there's no spark of spirituality in their existence. And so it's things like baser qualities, like anger. The other thing goes down, right? That's what you have to do. So in the walk across the U.S., I've had quite a few opportunities speaking to people in the parks and yoga studios, martial arts centers, and Lions clubs and casinos. And even we did one dog blessing. One lady pulled over when she saw me, said, "Oh, I heard what you're doing. I think it's just great what you're doing. And I'm a member of the Dog Rescue Association. And I have a dog that was abused, and I took it him. And I was wondering, do you do dog blessings?" And I said, "Well, I haven't done any, but I'm sure I can do one. I can pull it off. Great. Well, I'll get all the people I know in the local area. We have very short notice, and we'll bring all the dogs to a park. So I'll be in touch with you." So we decided this was Carson City, and it's called Fuji Park. And about 15 dog owners came with their dogs. And I said, "Okay, we're all going to sit in a semicircle. I'm going to sit right here and have your dogs all ready." And they were so chilled out. They were so relaxed. They were better than their dog owners. They were so calm, like yogis, you know. So I set a picture of Prabhupada here, and my good god sister, Anavadyangi, she arranged for all the arti paraphernalia, because she lives in that area. So she blew the conch, and the dogs were looking, you know. And then I rang the bell, and I was doing all this puja to Prabhupada, and then offering to the dogs, and the dogs are looking, you know. And then I offered the water, and I sprinkled it on them. And then we offered the flower, and the flower went to the nose when my brahmachari assistants brought the flower to the nose of the dogs. And then a chamra. And then finally the conch, you know. And then I quoted from the verse. I had a chance to talk to the people, you know, about what's important here. And we have to deal with the little demons inside. That's my basic message when people come together to hear what the walking monk has to say. And So you have to address the little demons inside, the lust, the anger, and the greed. But here, let's look at these dogs. What is said in the Bhagavad Gita about dogs? You want to do it once again? Vidyabhinaya sampane brahmine gavahastin shuni chaiva swapakecha pandita samadarshina. Okay, so a person who is truly wise, a true pundit, who has real vision, has equal vision, and sees that a human, like a Brahmin, a high-placed human being, and sort of a lower level kind of person who eats dogs. And then there's the hustis, the elephant, the gavis, the cow, and the dog, shuni. They all have the same spiritual quality. So we started on that note, I hear sometimes devotees are very condemning of dogs. Oh, dogs, bleh. But we have to really consider that there's a spiritual spark of life in all forms of life. And we have to be a little bit more balanced about our attitude towards various creatures, I must admit, if the cockroach came into my room and said, "Get out of here," but you're still a spirit soul, Hare Krishna, So we have to make, and even if it's big, try to make it small, try to shrink it down, because it really is. Everything that we have to contend with that's a challenge is minuscule. It's poquito. Poquito means small in Spanish. Poquito. Everything's poquito. Your problems are nothing. Nothing. So let's take an example of Arjuna. He had to deal with this colossal situation, a big army. And it was a big one. And if you're trying to remember how many it was, 7-Eleven. This is a store, a chain store that we have in the West, 7-Eleven. Okay, and I remember the Pandavas always had the smaller number of Akshahinis. They had 7, and it was the Kauravas that had 11. 7-Eleven. Okay, so Arjuna had to face the 11 Akshahinis. A big deal. And not only that, but people he loved. His grandfather, his guru, cousins, and he had to kill them. So when you look at that scenario, anything that we have to deal with is just, remember the word, paquito. You have to take home something, okay, today. So it's not a Sanskrit word, paquito. Whenever you think you have a big problem on your side, simply think and say, paquito Prabhu. Okay? That's it. My problems are paquito. It's small. So this will then help in our way of analyzing the world. And yes, we do have to address anger. We're going to hear about how Soma addresses this. Soma is in charge of the moon. He's also in charge of the vegetation. We also understand that the moon nourishes, gives nutrients to the plants in the evening time, part of photosynthesis. And so there's this great connection. And and we all like plants, don't we? We all like plants. And the last state that I walked through was California. California is known to be a place where people grow a certain kind of plant. And it's ganja, It's very common over there. I even met one fellow. What's your business? Oh, I grow plants. Oh, okay. The marijuana, right? So, and it's been a few times that I've been on the road, and people said, would you like a ride? No. Would you like some water? Okay, I'll take some. Would you like a donation? That will help. We got some herbs for you. No, thank you. No, thank you. It's against my religion, against my principles. So, but we can, just like there are herbs that are favorable and unfavorable, we pick and choose. But we're happy to have the plants. The plants are so gratifying to us. They give us shade. When you walk in the midst of trees, it's a hot day, they give you coolness, right? And when it's a cold day out, they give you warmth. They're so benevolent. They teach us tolerance. They give us fuel. They give us fruit and nuts. For some people, it turns into a house. and so on and so forth. You know, the leaves that fall from the trees, they turn into soil which allows for other plants to come up. Trees are our best friend, practically, in a practical way, right? After Vaishnavas and after God. Okay, I'm putting it down the list a little bit, but there's a saying, a dog is man's best friend. But I think it's more, if you want to get onto the practical world, I think it's trees that are our best friend and plants. So we want to thank you very much for listening to this story and about anger and why and what to do about it. And next time you have anger, just before getting angry, think a little bit like a Brahmin. Process, why am I angry? Why? How can I deal with it better instead of flaring up? Maybe I can just take a breath. Okay, let me think. Why did I get angry? Well, this person insulted me. Insulted what? Your body, but I'm not this body. Oh yeah, so I don't have to get angry. Okay, good. Analyze things a little bit like that. It really helps out, okay? Think and be sattvic in what you do, okay? If it's all rajas, it's all tamas, it's all going to be self-destructive. So therefore, be very careful about how you deal with anger. And ultimately chant Hare Krishna. It always helps. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I hope you're all feeling much more peaceful now. Hare Krishna. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. You were all great. So we don't have any time for questions. But you can meet me in the hallway or on the dance floor. Even if during kirtan and you have a pressing question, you can pull me by the kurta and I'll be happy to listen to you. Okay? Thank you very much. So keep smiling, be happy, enjoy the trees, and enjoy the prasadam. And everything is, when you think you have a big problem, just Pakito Prabhu. Look, you know, okay. Hare Krishna. Haribol. And let's do one more mantra. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Okay, you can go now. I'm going.